And now multiple sources have said that Bryce Young is that number one overall pick. And, just to see this shaken out, sources leaking it. Oh, I didn't actually change Bryce Young's lower thing. Dang. So it's going to say Cardinals draft trade, and then it's talking about Bryce Young. We're talking about Bryce Young, though, before anybody gets confused. So, again, sources Carolina to take Bryce Young first overall. Do you think this is the right pick, Justin? And if not, who should it be?
Yeah, I think so. Simply because, we've said this, for the last 2 years before he got here, this was going to be the consensus number one pick. And as you know, the closer we get to draft, the closer that we try to nitpick all these players going into it. And if the only thing that you can continually talk about is his size, then it tells me that this kid is the best. And make no mistake
It's
here,
the
right?
only thing they can say, right?
Make no mistake, size is a concern, because yes, Drew Brees is a smaller quarterback. Yes,
Right.
Russell Wilson, but these are indeed outliers.
Right.
You are not finding most of these good quarterbacks at that size.
Yep.
The problem is we've seen year after year after year, we try to predict quarterbacks and we realize that NFL drafting is not a science. And if there is one thing that with these signal callers, what you want the accuracy, you want the intestinal fortitude, you want leadership, and you want the ability to see the entire field.
Yep.
And when I look through his tape, when I look at Bryce Young, and look at the numbers, everything tells me that this boy is the best quarterback in the draft. And I don't think it may even be close. I know people want to talk about CJ. Yeah, I don't think it's close because when you look at his numbers, 80 touchdowns to just the 12 or 14, is it 12 or 14 interceptions in 2 years, right? I don't think a quarterback in the modern era has ever had a 2-year span just like that. He's won a Heisman winner. He's dominated the SEC. We talk about the best defensive division in all of college football. Yes, the size is a concern, especially the hits that you take. But we have to remember this is the NFL that's protecting quarterbacks. No, he is a bit mobile. He has the ability to move outside the pocket and make plays and extended plays. He is willing to hold on to the ball for the last second and take those hits inside the pocket. He maneuvers
He's a gamer.
He maneuvers the pocket better than any quarterback in this. And I mean, not in terms of extended plays outside, but I'm talking about the ability to move within the pocket, to extend the play inside that pocket, to buy himself that extra split second to get off a pass. I don't think there is a quarterback in the draft better at doing just that. And I mean, when you look at the talent around him on the outside, yes, Alabama is a perennial powerhouse, but he's not playing with Henry Ruggs. He's not playing with a Jalen Waddle. He's not playing with a Devontae Smith.
That's why he gets a lot of his credit, though.
And he does not play with a Jerry Jeudy.
Right.
When we talk about Alabama players from before, we're talking about Tua Tagovailoa. He played with those players. Mac Jones played with those players. And Bryce Young put up even greater numbers than them without those NFL first-round receivers.
Right.
I think it's a no-brainer. Bryce Young goes at number one.
Yeah, I hear you on that, man. I mean, Bryce Young, clearly, like you said, at Alabama, his stat line was great. The way that he can extend plays and just really go to wits end, stop on a dime, make a throw. I mean, you're not going to find a ton of holes in Bryce Young's game. And there was something that you just said about Bryce that I was really about to pick up on. Can't necessarily, with you talking about Bryce Young, not having all of those weapons. I mean, and to put it into perspective again, I love CJ Stroud. He's my favorite player and, or favorite quarterback and possibly even my favorite player overall in the draft. But when you look at the fact that CJ Stroud threw to Marvin Harrison, who's going to be a top pick next year, he threw to Chris Olave, who was a top pick to my Saints. He threw to Garrett Wilson, who was a top pick with the Jets. And he also threw to, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's the best wide receiver in the draft this year. I mean, the plethora of round one, top 10, top 15 picks at wide receiver that CJ Stroud had versus Bryce Young, winning the Heisman, playing Georgia a couple tough times, clearly having that big game against Tennessee. Like, I do personally believe Bryce Young was tested more. He was pushed to the brink more than CJ Stroud was. So that's why it feels like a better pick for Carolina at one. I forgot that they actually brought Adam Thielen in. So that's going to be very solid. They brought in Miles Sanders as well. So that's very good. They brought in Hayden Hurst as well. I was looking at the depth chart today and I was like, damn, I gotta retract my statement on Carolina having a naked offense. And I heard something today. given new information, you are allowed to change your opinion. And I love that and I respect that. I don't flip on my takes or my opinion a lot because I mean that's what makes it great, standing on your takes and whatnot, right? But yes, I do agree this is the right pick for Carolina. I did have CJ Stroud going number 1 overall in my first mock draft, but you look at all of the elements of a quarterback with Bryce Young. He did more than everyone in the class with arguably less talent than most people in the class. Heisman winner, his numbers. He's a leader, playing for Alabama, playing for Nick Saban. They mold you mentally when you play for Alabama. It's the Alabama way, kind of like you have the Patriot way when you play for Nick Saban, when you're mentored by Nick Saban. It's gonna produce a lot of great talent. I mean, look at the talent that that Alabama puts in the NFL every year, not just this year, but to really double down on Bryce Young not having any targets, show me an Alabama pass catcher going in the first round this year. There's
Exactly.
not. There's not, and that's crazy because when you think of a Henry Ruggs, when you think of a Jerry Jeudy, when you think of a Derrick
Jalen
Henry,
Waddle.
a Alvin Kamara in the running back room, you think of a Jalen Waddle. I mean, so Devontae Smith. You think of so many people. We haven't even mentioned Jameson Williams and John Mechie starting to get their spotlight in the NFL yet. I mean, John Mechie's over there hitting with the Texans, and Jameson Williams, playing 9 to 10 months after an ACL just really showed his pedigree of everything. But nonetheless, I do believe that Bryce Young is the right pick at number 1 overall. I do like CJ Stroud better than him, like I said, due to his size. I think his throwing form is a little better. I think his follow through, I think his touch on the football is better than Bryce Young's, and I think his size is better. But Bryce undoubtedly has been pushed to the brink more, played with less, played for Alabama. And Alabama's got a better track record right now of quarterbacks in the NFL. Go ahead and tell me Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma. I don't give a damn because he started his career at Alabama, and I love that. Ohio State doesn't have, outside of Justin Fields, who are waiting, to take an awesome leap, and I really hope he does. Alabama's got the upper hand on putting pedigree quarterbacks in the NFL right now, but let's predict the Panthers' record and playoff depth, if any, with Bryce Young. I'll let you go first unless you want me to. I got some of the games and stuff pulled up over here, so it might
Go
kind
ahead.
of give you a
You,
gauge. Cool. I got you. So I have the Panthers with Bryce Young. If they pick him number 1 overall, I have the Panthers going 8-9 in their first year. I have them going 3-3 in the division. The Falcons are making moves. The Saints made moves. I think the Bucs are still going to be a formidable team. Like, I think the Panthers will be tough enough to hang with the Falcons and Saints, but also bad enough to maybe get swept by the Bucs. Like, that's how interesting this division could be. But nonetheless, just to keep it simple, I have them splitting in the division, going 3-3. I'm going to have wins over the Packers, the Texans, the Colts, the Bears, and the Titans. Obviously, the Bucs, Falcons, and Saints as well. If I had to pull off of one of those wins, it would probably be the Packers and maybe the Bears as well, which I have them going. They could fall and maybe go a 6-win, a 7-win team. I don't think they're going to be that rough because, again, Bryce Young is a great player. He's a generational talent coming out of Alabama. Like, I'm very excited to see what Bryce Young is going to be in the league. Now, losses to the Bucs, Falcons, and Saints. They're also going to have them losing to the Vikings, the Cowboys, the Jags, the Seahawks, and the Dolphins, which I think is pretty reasonable. And the Panthers actually have the 3rd easiest schedule in the NFL. Falcons at number 2, Saints at number 1. I want to say Colts at number 4, Bears at number 5. I was looking at that. That was actually on the schedule tonight until Bud Dupree went to the Falcons, and it sent my brain to an Atlanta Falcons content creation mode. But nonetheless, I've put that out there now, Justin. If you had to make a record prediction, nothing crazy. I don't see them making the playoffs, by the way. Maybe they do, but as of right now, no playoffs. I have them 8-9, going 3-3 in the division. What say you?
Depends, and again, it comes down to those 2 games against the Saints.
Right.
I have them.
Oh, of course, it's the 2 games against the Saints.
No, I'm serious because I'll give you. I have
drink my drink with my logo showing.
I'm going to have them, and here's going to shock for you. I have them sweeping the Falcons, and I have them sweeping the Buccaneers.
Damn.
I think the Buccaneers are going to be the worst team in the division, actually. But that's another topic for another day. But yeah, I have them sweeping both the Buccaneers and the Falcons. And it all comes down to those 2 games with the Saints. So I have them like you, either 8-9 or 9-8. It is hard for rookie quarterbacks to lead teams to the playoffs. Like, it's like Definitely. Very rarely done. I like the moves that they've done offensively. They bring in Miles Sanders. Like, this is like you saw the All-Pro season that he had or Pro Bowl season that he had last season. And then a veteran receiver in Adam Thielen, like one of those good possession receivers that will help out a young quarterback trying to make his way in the NFL.
Right.
Also, they added DJ Shark. And then on top of that, your head coach, Frank Reich, is known for developing quarterbacks and is a former NFL quarterback at that. And he also has a former NFL quarterback as his quarterback's coach. I think he is going to be just fine. I think what will happen, because you know what Frank Reich does, Frank Reich leans heavily on the run game. So you're going to see a lot of play action passing. So that is where I think Bryce Young is going to excel, because you're not going to ask him to do overly a lot. I think it's going to reduce the size of the play. But for him, you're going to see a lot of run heavy stuff. That's what Carolina did last year. They
Yeah.
almost made the
They
playoffs.
always run the hell out of the football too.
Yep, they could run on anyone, and I think they're going to, with the addition of Miles Sanders, you're just going to see that. They're going to lean heavily on that offensive line and run the football. And then anything out of that, you're going to see all naked bootlegs, a lot of play action passing with Bryce Young. I think the winner, like this division comes down to your Saints and the Panthers, and it depends on those two games.
Ooh.
It depends on those two matchups this season.
Yeah.
Whether it's a split or whoever gets the sweep is the person who wins. Because you have Derek Carr, I'm going to lean, and I trust your defense more than Carolina's. I'm going to give your Saints the edge, but I will say this: if the Carolina Panthers make the playoffs, it will not be surprised.
Heard that. Yeah, the NFC South is it was pegged. I love this. The NFC South was pegged to be the worst division in football about 90 days ago, and since then, the Saints have signed Derek Carr and made some moves. The Falcons have remade their defense. The Panthers have traded up to the number 1 overall pick and have signed Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Hayden Hurst, and Miles Sanders. And the Bucs lost Tom Brady, haven't really made any real moves. They're going to lose one of the best linebackers in the NFL, possibly in Devin White. So and that's what I'm saying. Like, I pray the Bucs make a draft move. Like, if I had to choose the Bucs or the Falcons to make a draft move, I would want the Falcons to do it. But if the Bucs made a draft move, like that would take the NFC South from pegged as the worst division in football to being pegged as the most interesting division in football. Because right now, I think the AFC South is the worst division in football by far. The Jags are going to own that division. They're going to run that division, at least this year. I could see, Tennessee and maybe Indianapolis, turning it around. Loved the Colts a few years ago. I think they had one of the better rosters in the league, and they just could never really get the coaching or the quarterback right. But just to have a little more fun, and then we're going to get into an amazing last segment after we hit the break after this. Give me a stat line for Bryce Young in his rookie year, whether he goes to the Panthers or not, however you want to look at it. Just give me a stat line for Bryce Young in his rookie year. And do you think even maybe he could win Offensive Rookie of the Year?
When I look through this cast of offensive rookies, I'm not sure. So I don't know where this offensive rookie of the year is going to come from.
Right.
So for right now, I'm going to lean on him because I suspect that of all the teams that will have rookie quarterbacks, Carolina will be the one that will be the most competitive. I'm going to see something like, 20 touchdown, 12 interception kind of season from Bryce Young, because he's not a high turnover quarterback. He's never shown that in college, so I can't come here and say that he's going to struggle protecting the football. So I think, especially with Frank Reich being such a good quarterbacks coach, and on top of that, they're going to be a run-heavy team. I think you're going to see a 20 touchdown, 12 interception type of season from Bryce Young.
Heard that. Yeah, I was essentially in the same ballpark. You look at his college numbers, he averaged 4,200 yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 picks a season essentially in college. So I think if I had to guess for his rookie year, I'm going to go about 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 picks. And I think for Offensive Rookie of the Year, it's either him, C.J. Stroud, or Bijan Robinson. I don't think there's really going to be anyone outside of that. Like, could Jackson Smith-Njigba, could maybe Jalen Hyatt, possibly, could it be potentially Dalton Kincaid or Michael Mayer? But I think if I look at Offensive Rookie of the Year as of right now, April 14th, 2023, I'm taking either Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, or Bijan Robinson for Offensive Rookie of the Year.